Hello, this is Alonzo Bodden. I want to welcome you to episode 331 of my podcast, Who's Paying Attention? And today, by popular demand, and by that I mean you guys like when I have guests, I have, so this guy, let's see, comedian, writer, producer, Emmy Award winner, actor, father, incredible sports fan, and a man with nothing but free time, Jeff Cesario.
I'm exhausted just listening to that. I can't believe I did any of that. I need a nap.
You have done all of it. We've done a fair amount of it together.
That's correct.
Which is always fun. So what I wanted to talk to you about today, and we had talked about this briefly, the assholes are winning. I mean, you said it right before we started, pricks, assholes, and jerks. It's like planes, trains, and automobiles. Yeah. And what is it? I mean, from the anti-vax mask things to the armed insurrections at governments to, walking the dog without a leash in the park, not cleaning up after the dog, or not using turns, and every level in between. What the hell are we doing?
I don't know. There seems to have been an empowerment of I would call it low rent elitism. There seems to be an empowerment that's happening at that level where it's like you used to kind of be an asshole. Because we're all assholes at times. Yes, at times. We're all assholes. Most of us can put it in check or recognize it. And, so there are now people who think that that is an acceptable way to behave a lot of the time. And it's a slow-moving machine, and then it pops through. That's all they need is a break in the dike, because it's like the Macarena. Everybody went, well, that's stupid,
right?
Until it wasn't, and then everybody was doing it. Yeah, it just popped through, man.
I wish it were as innocuous as the Macarena.
Yeah,
I mean, now, like here's a trend that might be a bit disturbing: attacking school board meetings. There are parents at the school board who are so angry over a mask thing or a no, it's not even vaccine, it's just mask. But they go in screaming. They threaten school board members and teachers. And the other thing is, like, what are you teaching your kid? You're teaching your kid, okay, if you don't like the rules, throw a tantrum. Yeah.
That is exactly one of the tenets of this movement is don't necessarily play by the rules. Look, Steve Bannon, subpoena. Fuck your subpoena. You go, what do you mean, fuck your subpoena? You can't do that.
It's only Congress.
So there is this empowerment of, I didn't get my way, so I'm just going to change things or scream until I get my way. And it's Karenism, but, well, a lot of people might be pleased with this. It's not gender specific.
Oh, no.
It's gender neutral now.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Karens.
Karens and Kens. I was informed
Black,
that we call
white, Asian, male, female, trans. It doesn't matter. There are Karen assholes everywhere. And it's really, maybe it's a good thing. We'll have to push this. I think life is generally a pendulum. I'm from Wisconsin. Wisconsin has an unbelievable political history. Everything from Joe McCarthy and the anti-communist red-baiting Senate hearings all the way over to Robert La Follette, who was probably the only legit progressive who ever got elected to a power office, governor of Wisconsin. And it constantly goes back and forth. We've had, crazy Republican senators like Ron Johnson. And then all you got to do is dial back, I don't know how many, 20 years maybe, 25 years, 30 years. You had William Proxmire and Gaylord Nelson, who were two of the most amazing Democratic senators of all time, worked across party lines, got so much shit done. And I just think we happen to be right here on the pendulum swing right now. It's at the apex. It's going to swing back, and hopefully it settles right here in the center at some point.
I hope you're right. But, the thing about it, and, I love the thing with politics, right? Because, okay, so you say something political. First of all, you're a comedian. You're not supposed to be talking about politics, right? And then it's like, don't make it political, even though everything is political.
Yeah.
And then it's, you don't know what the hell you're talking about anyway, right? So those three things being said, and number 4, it's Obama's fault. Because let's be honest, it is.
Sure. Thanks, Obama. My wife and I say that over trip on something in the front hall. Thanks, Obama. It's such a great phrase.
But what you're talking about, though, the crazy, right, has now become the brand. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene, that's her brand. I am crazy, and I will take the most extreme, ridiculous view of any issue you put up, and my followers, right, double down on it. I mean, this is so I get what you're saying, and the thing with the Republican Party, and they always say, well, you make fun of Republicans, not Democrats. Republicans are much funnier. Their crazy is much funnier. We have crazy Democrats, but never as good.
No, it's full blown. The Democrats have no testosterone when it comes to crazy. The best crazy is Republican crazy, because they drive from Taylor Greene all the way. They just pump it full of wiener pills, and it's just supercharged.
This podcast brought to you by.
Exactly. So it's and there's two things you mentioned: their followers, and here's what's happened with social media: is you can get these slivers of an audience, and that's all you need. The upside is creatively, you don't need 25 million people watching your television show to be a success. You can have 500,000 and people go, if it's the right 500,000, the advertisers will pay to hit that 500,000 people, and you're in like Flint. But the downside of that is when you get, everybody's just looking for their demographic now. Just find me my Patreon and let me check out, and I'll just appeal to them. The rest, I'll be a mini god to them. So all you got to do is find that, and then you're home free. And that's sort of the downside of social media, is that anybody with any crazy conspiracy theory or any nutball asshole take can narrow it down and find people who go, that's what I've been thinking.
I mean, we're laughing about it, but it's real and to the point. And some of it is just annoying, right? The day-to-day annoyance, like the dog thing, right? So I have a dog now, and I walk the dog, and it's like, how do you not clean up after your dog? Like, how are you that? My thing is, like, if you don't clean up your dog shit, you're dog shit. Like, how do you just figure, it's society, right? There are certain, I'll use the word rules, but it's almost like just society's way of getting along. Like, hey, this is a park. Everybody goes to the park. Yeah. Nobody wants to walk in dog shit. So here's my question. How does someone just decide, like, they look at the sign and they see it and they're like, nope, doesn't apply to me. Just nope. It has nothing to do with me.
Take that little example you just gave and blow it up to a mask or a vaccine, and you've got that same character trait running through it. Some people just don't want to be told anything. Some people don't grasp the beauty of what the democracy is, which is freedom, until we hit a speed bump, and then we're going to sit down and figure out what's best for everybody, and we'll have to deal with it. And then there's always going to be some people who go, I'm not dealing with it. I'm just doing what I want to do. And eventually, you yank them along. It happened with litter. And forget that shit. I'm throwing my fast food right out until you get 2 tickets.
Right.
And you go, oh, fuck it. I guess I'll throw them in the back seat.
Well, my favorite
and then, seat belts, speed limit, whatever it might be, anything that is for the greater good always causes a problem for some people. And I do understand that fuck me, fuck you attitude. Sometimes there's some things in my life that, like if somebody, I had a situation once where somebody said, hey, your opening joke is great. Could you not do it because it's somebody here doesn't want to hear it? And you go, yeah, maybe not. Maybe I'll do my opening joke anyway. So I have it naturally as an Italian, and then you add comedian to it. And so I get the impulse, but at some point we gotta calm it all down, I think.
Right. And the impulse, listen, it's a lot of times it's a hassle. A lot of times the rules are a hassle. And when you talk about that, what you just said about being a comedian on stage and saying something that offends people, there's some guy in the news lately that's had a bit of a problem with that. I don't know. But even on they start yelling about freedom of speech and this and that. But even, right, which freedom of speech is fun because it's like, well, no, I have freedom of speech, but you don't because you said something that I don't like. So no, it doesn't apply to you. What is that?
Yeah.
What is the, I have this freedom and you don't thing. And you touched on the masks and this is like, if this were open to the public, this would be a 12-hour podcast, right? Of just annoying shit, right? The people and this is when you're just being a child and you're hard to deal with. Like, I'm going to wear a mask, but I'm going to wear it under my chin. Like, intentionally, I'm going to wear it down here like it's a beard covering.
Yeah.
Just so it's like you're a 8-year-old kid saying, I'm wearing one.
Yeah.
And you're an adult man. And this is a man thing. This is a man thing.
That's true.
So
here's what I would say. Have the balls. Have the balls to stand on the pants rack at Costco and say, this is all bullshit. Have the stones to do that.
Don't challenge them because they do that at Target. They attack. They attack the man. See, this is the thing. Anything we used to make a joke out of is now real.
I know. It's an empowerment still. I firmly believe, but it does tie into what you're talking about, which is an erosion of just civil behavior. And that has to we got to find a way where there's a price to pay for uncivil behavior. I really believe that just being discourteous should, in certain situations, be a felony. That's my feeling. I think that 6 months in the clink or a $7,000 fine. Something. If you seriously are going to cut across 4 lanes of a fucking highway just because you missed your exit, no. I mean, it probably your dad and my dad. That's who I hear. That's who we hear in the back of our heads going, you know what? Asshole, go down to the next exit
and make a
turn
U-turn.
around.
Right. Come back, get on either turn on the street or get off the high. And they didn't have GPS. They just knew.
Yeah.
Or they would continue driving. Like we were kids, we didn't know. They were completely lost. They were completely lost.
Sure.
But they kept driving because the point was you never ask.
Yeah. Now, I come from a family where we overdo that. Where we're too conscious of other people's needs, and you got to put yourself first. So we got to find a healthy way as a society to have good self-esteem, but also understand there's a greater good in place. And you have to be kind to your fellow man. You
talk about your family, and I'm the same way, but I think it's also generational. Like we were raised to follow the rules. Now, most of us, and in some cases, I felt the same way. Like, damn, I follow the rules too much because it's so deeply ingrained.
Right.
And yeah, I'm an asshole sometimes. I've turned without the turn signal on. My favorite is when they're halfway through the turn and then they turn on the signal. It's like, who you telling? It seems like such a small thing, the turn signal, but it is the first indicator.
It's like a 12-year-old going, "Hey, could I see Reefer Madness?" It's the first indicator.
Right.
The turn signal is the first indicator, and you hit right on the head. It's not for you. It's for the people behind you.
Right.
It drives me insane. It drives me insane when you're not paying attention. Drive. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't care how big your Tesla screen is. Drive.
Oh,
That's what you're in the car for. Here's the deal. When I get in my car, I have a unique approach. I have a place to go. And I'm fucking trying to get there, okay? I know you're just trying to decide, are we going to Cracker Barrel or are we going to Antique first? I don't care, but right now, you are driving. Drive.
You hit a nail on the head with the Tesla thing. Like, they have another level. Just Tesla people. I always say Tesla people are Prius people that made it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they have the giant screen, and they keep being told their car can drive itself, even though it can't.
Yeah, that is.
So they're just like, nah, I'm just, like you said, like I'm researching on the internet where to go antiquing. I need an antiquing place near the Cracker Barrel.
Right.
So I have to Yelp it and find, and they're doing this on the screen while the car is moving forward that you better be paying attention to, because I'm not.
Yeah, and first of all, I think the Prius attracts buyers who have undiagnosed learning disabilities. I don't know what is going on there. And then you're right, it's blown up for the Tesla. The only advantage that Tesla has is they can correct their mistake in a fucking nanosecond. I don't know what's going on with that car. But the other thing about that car is they did have the giant display where they were going to show how indestructible their window was, and I got to put a hammer right through it. So when they tell you it drives itself, just remember the broken window. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
But yeah, the turns, it's for other people. It's to let people know I'm going to turn up here a ways. I'm going to get out of your way because I see I'm going too slow. I'm going to move out of the way and let you, take off. So those little courtesies have left the building. Yeah, and we got to bring them back.
The idea, and you talked about one thing. You talked about littering, and I'm going to go with a bigger one: smoking. And I used to be a smoker, right? Society banned smoking. It wasn't any rule. It was just society just got to a point where, like, okay, you want to smoke? You're an asshole. Go outside and go down the block, right? It was the health thing when the doctors came out and said, secondhand smoke will kill people. Like, no one listened to the doctors. But then when it was like, you stink, we don't like you, we don't want you here. Like, so
public shaming is not a bad thing.
Right. And
it can happen.
The idea, it's so funny, the concern. And by the way, if you have a Prius or a Tesla and you think we're picking on you, we are. But listen, there's other cars that fall into the list. The Dodge Charger happens to be one. Many large pickup trucks happen to fall into that category, So listen, if your pickup truck takes 2 spaces, you don't get to park by the door. All right.
Right.
Go to the end of the parking lot and take up 2 spaces, not the 2 spaces next to the handicap spot.
Yeah.
And if you're on the checkerboard or the striped area of the handicap spot, you're in the handicap spot. Stop being an asshole.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned something that harkens to the beauty, the tragic beauty of democracy, is it takes 50 to 60 years. But it works, and it's the best thing we have. We tend to forget this, especially now, because it seems at times like the world is in flames around us, and in many ways it is. But if we trust the system and just try to bring people back to the system, work within the system, that's what pisses me off a lot of times, is people who think they have the ability to work outside the system. Again, it's that elitism, it's that assholism that we're just going to go do this. And you go, wait a second, we built this whole democracy on this. So it took, I remember, and I'm sure you do too, First of all, the whole plane used to be able to smoke.
Right.
Then they had a smoking section and a non-smoking section. And if I may, generally speaking, it was right around row 22. Then row 23 was your non-smoking section.
Right.
And you can't,
you cannot stop that
That
smoke.
doesn't work.
The smoke doesn't know, I can't go forward of row 23?
That existed 10 years before the machinations worked it out.
Movie theaters, same way.
Yes.
Movie theaters, same way. Yeah.
So trust it. You may not be around to see it, but it will eventually work.
It's just fascinating to me sometimes. When at my best, I don't get angry. I'm just fascinated. I almost want to ask, so what day did you decide these rules don't apply? When did you decide, it's the cell phone. So I give you my cell phone thing. I was in Phoenix Airport, and this woman was on her phone. And I knew where she was going and what time her appointment was and who she was going to see. And what that made me do, it made me conscious. I was like, wow, if I could hear her, my voice is deep and loud and carries. And that's when I said, I'll start texting or walk away. Like, I'm not going to be on the phone near people because it's annoying. Like the joke, can I get some privacy? It's like, no, you're in public.
Yeah. Yeah, sure, you get privacy. Go somewhere private.
Right. You're in public. No, you can't have privacy here.
There is literally a Starbucks across the street from the other Starbucks. You can find a place with some privacy for your conversation about your project that's in development.
Thank you, because it is.
Yeah, there is something to be said. Here's one of the things that maybe it's a slightly larger issue, which is good. We've in an attempt to allow everyone to advocate for themselves, we have opened up an awful lot of people in this country, myself included, who have been used to repressing our feelings and filled with either guilt or shame and then passive aggressiveness. We may have discarded some of those tools too fast. There's something to be said for passive aggressiveness.
And there's
something to be said for, as we pointed out, shame. Eventually, public shame will push us like an Australian shepherd into the right pen, and we'll all get there. But it's just gonna take a while.
And you're absolutely right. And here's another thing with public shame, and I love blaming it on the media because why not? But when you look at certain stories, they won't say this is wrong. Okay, like just looking at the news headline here, it talks about a driver intentionally rams vaccine mandate protesters, and it's like, well, no, a crazy man tried to kill people. You know what I mean? Like, no, this is not reasonable behavior. Let's not cover it like. It was like in Texas, right? When they have that law that you got to teach both sides of an issue, and then they're like, well, we got to teach the other side of the Holocaust. Like, no, you don't. Yeah. And why does someone have to tell you there's no good side to the, to the other side of the Holocaust?
Yeah, the other side of the Holocaust is people went insane through fascism and decided it was okay to kill a bunch of people.
Right.
So if that's the other side they're teaching, then great. But if they're looking for something else, then you're in a problem. And there's so much out there right now. There's so much information. There's so many places to get your information that you have to try to slow down and go, what exactly is the correct information here? Who's doing what to who?
Right. Well, there's definitely that problem of the partisan information. And like you said earlier, anything you want to believe, you can find someone on the internet who believes it. But you're supposed to be, and this, I don't know how you do this in this era, but you're supposed to be intelligent enough to say, well, no, that's ridiculous. That couldn't be true. Or go to a legitimate, listen, I know that the New York Times and the LA Times are in on it. I understand. But I know they're in on it. But go to a legitimate news source. Like sometimes when I hear a story, it's like, okay, let me Google this and see if it's being covered by anybody who does real news.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, that's a whole other kaleidoscope, which I'll get into in a second. But just the idea of opposing media, for us, experiencing it now, and if you want to pinpoint it, Fox and OWN News versus NBC and the New York Times, however you want to position it, this is not new.
Right.
This has been going on for the entire history of this country. There have been newspapers in cities that have had offices right across the street from each other who literally threw mud at each other's candidates constantly. Oh, yeah, he screwed a dog. Fuck you.
Right.
He killed 18 people. What? You know, they didn't care. It was blind fiction they were writing about whatever they didn't like at each other. Yellow journalism forever in this country. So we have slowly gotten to a place.
Can I just stop you right now and say you're probably not allowed to say yellow journalism
anymore,
or shame the history of journalists who lied in America. Just our disclaimer that we have to add to everything.
The greatest thing about the whole Chappelle thing to me was when he said, "I will do anything you guys ask if you admit that Hannah Gadsby isn't funny." That's what he said. I thought, that is hilarious. That's just funny.
Right.
The way it's phrased, the way it's structured, whether to the point where I don't know if he cares if Hannah Gadsby's funny or not. Just the balls to phrase it that way.
Just to say it, yeah.
As a comedian, you go, wow, that's hilarious. But yeah, there's always a center, and then we get comfortable because we think 12 years of modest civility becomes what we think is the norm, and maybe it isn't. Then it gets yanked one way or the other, and we're back in it. We're back in people just throwing crap at each other.
Yeah, it's although I will say this, and I've said this before, there's an unfair comparison. In other words, if I look at Fox News and I look at MSNBC, yeah, it's right and left, but Fox is way more right than MSNBC is left. I think there's a false equivalency in that.
There could be, but
in other words,
I cannot
MSNBC doesn't have a Tucker Carlson or a Sean Hannity.
Well, depending. People would say, and some of this is devil's advocate.
Okay, that's
some
fine.
of it isn't.
I'm good with that.
But Rachel Maddow can just rub people the absolute wrong way. And once that happens, that's it.
Yeah.
That's
only
it.
thing I will
it's
say...
It's like if you say to somebody, Jennifer Aniston's sexy.
Right.
A lot of guys will go, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
And other guys will go, ooh, yeah. You know what I mean? So,
no, you're right about Rachel, but the one thing I will give Rachel Maddow against it is she doesn't just make up things to say.
True.
That's where I say the false equivalent. Not liking her, listen.
Yeah.
Don Lemon, same thing. There's people who can't stand Don Lemon, and I get it. I get it if you can't stand Don Lemon.
Sure, he's the Don Cornelius of news.
Right.
Don
right.
Lemon.
but when you get into, well, we're just going to make up facts.
Yeah.
Then you're like, okay, stop now. You know, hey, we're not news, we're opinion. What's in the title? Fox News, not Fox Opinion.
Exactly. And that's something that relates to the point you brought up earlier, which is what is news, what isn't news. And this whole breaking apart of, there's no centralized show business, no centralized news business anymore. It's all decentralized, and there's a great advantage to that in so many ways. But the downside is exactly this. We start with The Daily Show. It's a brilliant idea. Let's do a fake news show. You know, people have dabbled in it in various and assorted ways, but let's do a whole one and put a comedian right at the desk and give it a go. And then we'll make our satire points through a larger satire of the entire news business. 10 years later, they do a survey. 60% of college kids get their news from The Daily Show. And even Stewart went, guys,
I'm just kidding.
I essentially did this to get off the road for 6 months. I don't know what you guys are doing, but we're trying to make a joke of this. So, you look at the personalities on both sides, but for me, especially the right, only because it's more clear to me. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of them that tried stand-up once, twice, several times, didn't work. Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, I can't remember her name, the blonde.
Which one?
They all tried stand-up and they didn't get traction. I'm not even criticizing them because I know how hard stand-up is. They didn't get the traction they wanted. It wasn't right. They got into radio. They tried something else. They tried whatever. And then they found that this sort of center-right move got them some traction, got them an audience. Now you got the audience. Now you go, all right, I started the plane. Now how do I fucking fly this? Holy crap. I got 100,000 followers. I got 500,000. What do I do now? Well, I give them what they want. Okay, now we'll get the wing flaps up. Now we're starting to fly. And it becomes that. I remember doing Politically Incorrect with Tucker Carlson 27 years ago. I don't even know when it was.
Yeah.
And he was just trying to get some, he was just trying to get traction with an audience.
And it is a joke to everyone except the audience.
Right.
That's the, like again, and we sound like we're beating on Fox News because they need it. Anyway, you have a company that has a vaccine mandate at their office. And you know what I mean? Like their office says you have to wear a mask, you have to be vaccinated, whatever to come. So you put on your mask, you get your vaccine, you go to work. They turn on the camera and say, "How dare they have you wear a mask? You better not be back." And you're just like, and again, getting back to being comedians, like you're the Daily Show. It's like, okay, be funnier than that.
Yeah. I have a great belief in capitalism evening out all of this. And the fact that Disney wound up buying Fox, that will wear down like a river rock in the center of the Missouri. It's just slow but sure. In 10 years, I'll just be a pebble and they'll go, hey, you remember when that one guy used to come on and rant and rave? Right. It'll just kind of happen. But not because anybody wanted it to, but because somebody made more money another way.
Yeah. And you're right about the capitalism. Yeah, if there's money in it, that usually works. There's a few people who can't be bought.
Yeah.
But most people can be bought. And when I say bought, I don't mean compromise all of your morals or change who you are. I mean that business will decide like you said, oh, there's more money in doing it this way, so let's do it this way. Again, getting back to smoking, right? When they realized there's more money in a non-smoking restaurant than a smoking restaurant, it was like, okay, all the restaurants are non-smoking.
And honestly, capitalism, the price you will have to pay is that somebody in Congress will have to go, well, I can't hang my constituents out by you trying to flip smoking around like that because I'm from North Carolina. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to give me 10 years and you're going to let me retool these farms and you're going to let me retrain this workforce and you're going to let these corporations diversify so R.J. Reynolds isn't just cigarettes anymore. You got to let me do that or all of American capitalism is going to flip too fast for us. And sometimes that deal with the devil is made.
Yeah, and sometimes it flips too fast, but it's because, you refused to move.
Yes, right. That's when it flips too fast. Is when you haven't, when the opposition to it is too entrenched and isn't willing to make a compromise.
Right.
That's what happens. Sometimes it's just in explaining things to people, and that's why we get back to that sort of asshole reflex. Is to me. The whole vaccine thing is this. Here's how I would explain it to my Republican friends. We have an American industry hospitals and the healthcare system that is in crisis, just like the automobile industry was and the steel industry was and big ag was. And we bailed them out, and we bailed them out with government money because that's what they needed. We don't need the money necessarily right now. We need people to stop coming through the fucking front door sick because they're overwhelmed. How do we help a big chunk of the American gross national product right now, which is the healthcare industry? How do we help them recover? The best way, not have people coming through the front door. It's economics. It's rude and it's bald-faced, but that is a way to explain it, at least to some people, that might help it makes sense to them, and their initial punch back isn't, hey, fuck me, fuck you.
Right. Well, okay, just, on that topic, this is why it's like, Congress, really? Have you heard about this guy, Madison Cawthorn?
Yeah.
Who urges women to raise their sons to be monsters. Like he's saying that masculinity is going away, testosterone is dropping. So basically, raise your son to be a caveman, insult women, attack women. Of course, he's going to be rolling coal because he's a real man, and
right.
So, but this guy's in Congress. That's the thing about, even if you go back to, let's go back to Reagan, right? Because it all goes swear
back to
by
Reagan.
Well, they swear by Reagan, but they refuse to accept. Like today's Republican Party would not accept Reagan. Like he would be way too close to the middle. But back then, you did have Congress and the president or different congressmen would disagree, but they still got drunk together, you know. And now,
absolutely.
Now it's like, no, I want to kill you.
Well, two things. First of all,
no, I want my son to kill you. I want my son to be a monster. And
if you want men to have more testosterone, if you want boys to have more testosterone, well, stop letting sex offenders run the Boy Scouts. Let's start there. So clean that mess up, and then maybe you've got a apprentice system, clean apprentice system, where if a boy if he's interested in that, in hunting and fishing and camping or whatever might be the outdoors, more what we would consider old style manly stuff, he's got an avenue where he's not going to get molested because he's trying to get a merit badge.
Yeah. So
clean that up. Now you got a system that's going to help young men who want to pursue that avenue. And then if they don't, let them do it. And the other thing on the what's the large one, macro?
Yeah.
On the macro level, maybe as a country, we're just finally beginning to tiptoe out of adolescence. You look at Italy and you go, they have strippers in their Congress.
Right,
and, maybe that's just finally happening for us. And this is the growing pains, is that we have, psychos on all sides who are just creeping in because they can. Hand it to the Republicans. They looked at it 20 years ago and 30 years ago and went, you know what? Let's start at the school board level.
Oh, the school, they did.
And now they run the school boards, and they're chucking books that are great, and they're just because they have the majority.
And what they've done, they've run the school boards, and then people, like before, you didn't notice the school board. They took over the school boards, and people were like, holy shit, what's going on with... So now you have the more liberal and progressive parents going in and getting elected in the school board.
Right.
And the right wing, they're like, well, we're not going to get elected. We're just storming the gates. We've come full circle of what we're talking about, right? Where now they're just, no, we're not going to wait till the next election. Or even here, look at California. We're not going to wait till the next election. We're going to have the state waste $300 million
in a recall
because Gavin Newsom went to a restaurant without a mask.
Right.
Let's stop pretending it was anything other than that. He went to a restaurant without a mask, and the Republican Party said, we can take over all of California's business. And you know who we got? We got a talk show host. We found a black guy who hates black people. That's our guy.
Another comic, incidentally.
Oh, yeah. But
Larry Elder tried stand-up.
Yeah, and it really hurts us to call him. And, it's fun. I was doing talk radio for a while this year, and I said, the reason I'm absolutely sure Larry Elder's not qualified to be governor is because I'm a talk show radio host right now. That is the guarantee that no talk radio host is qualified to be governor. The fact that they're letting me do this, Okay,
Yeah, this is the beauty. Again, the painful beauty of democracy is it takes this level of global insanity for people to get involved, and now you have people involved, like you're saying. I mean, I don't want to get off my ass, but then suddenly you go, well, I can't sit by and let that happen.
No, it's, and they lose their minds over things. But again, and we're talking about the bigger societal things. But again, just the little day-to-day, I don't know, walking down the sidewalk and moving over for somebody to let them walk by, as opposed to asserting, this is my sidewalk, I'm going to walk here.
Yeah.
Cutting the line, Russell Peters had a great line at the time. It was back when the guy on the radio was taking pictures of people in Times Square, and this woman got mad at him. It was Opie and Anthony. I don't know which one of them it was. Right. But he's taking pictures of random people, and this woman was like, hey, you can't do that. And he's like, yes, I can't, blah, blah. And Russell said something that I always thought was great. So Russell said, some people, they just weren't punched in the mouth when they were a kid. Like, he's like, if you get punched in the mouth as a kid for the rest of your life, you think before you act. That's just based on the fact, like, man, remember that time I got punched in the mouth? That's absolutely
correct. There have to be consequences. People are angry, and that anger is coming out in what they believe, I honestly believe, is their chance to advocate for themselves. I don't think they're hiding behind that. I think a lot of people really believe that. Like, hey, wait a second. I'm not being heard here. This is changing too fast. That's changing too fast. Who said that could happen when I wasn't looking?
So I'm going to get a gun.
Yeah. Or I'm gonna, I found a bunch of like-minded people. We're going to go demonstrate. Now, then that grows into the sicker elements on any side of it. But, it is that urge to go, wait, I'm not going to get walked on anymore.
And I get that. And I'm okay with the demonstration if you don't agree. But it's the insanity that goes with it. That's the part, no, I'm not going to protest out here. We're going to storm the gate. We're going to, when I heard, like, it blew my mind. I didn't even realize this was going on, that anti-vax people were like blocking vaccine places and stopping. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Like,
if you haven't,
how do you get to the point? We have to wrap up soon, but I'm going to ask you this question because you know everything. You won an Emmy. What happens in your head when you say, I don't believe in this, and I have the right to stop you from doing it?
That is the euphoria of the initial high of finally expressing yourself, advocating for yourself, not understanding that that's the first time you did it. Now you got to take that and mold that again into the system Americans have built for making change. When you don't do that, when your first instinct is just that instinct to advocate for yourself or say, hey, wait a second, this is what I feel, there's a high that goes with it. And you don't understand that it's crack unless you reel it back in. So it's like the first time you ever drove a speedboat. You go, this is nice. I wonder what it can do. And then, bam, you're doing like 130. And you're going, woo! And then somebody goes, there's a dock up there and a storm coming. I don't give a fuck. And then eventually you will give a fuck because you hit the dock and the storm comes in. So unless you understand that is a high, that is a rush, you're feeling the rush of power and the rush of commonality with others who think the same as you do, you think. But now take that and mold it into something inside the system that can make it work.
Yeah, well, listen, and I said at the beginning, we're not going to solve this. I mean, the rewarding asshole behavior
has to stop. What's the worst?
One would hope it would stop, but you know what the rest of the world looks at it as? Well, that's the American way.
Yeah.
That's what the entire world, and then what do quote Americans say? Well, screw you. It just becomes a thing. I don't know if it's self-fulfilling. It definitely feeds on itself. But anyway, I'm sorry. So what was
our
your question?
heroes are have asshole in them, but they know how to control it.
Right.
And that's where we as a country, as we go through our teens, and the rest of the world is adults already, some of them incredibly dysfunctional, but adults nonetheless. In our teens, we're going to hopefully grow to a point where we know how to control that asshole instinct. What's the worst asshole moment you can remember in your life?
You mean for me or for somebody else?
For anything.
It's so, man, there's so many. To me, it's the little things. Like I say, it's the not cleaning up the dog shit. It's wearing the mask under your chin. It's not standing in line or being that person with the full basket in the express lane because you know that, like, this is what bothers me. When you bully the employee, so you have the lower level employee, the store clerk, the doorman, whatever, and you bully that person because you can. When you bully the flight attendant, but you sit your ass down when the pilot comes out, you know that. Those people, to me, are the worst. Bullies are the worst. And when you do that, like, doesn't apply to me. I got 40 items in a shopping cart. I'm staying in this line. I dare you to say something. Those are the ones, like Russell said, never punched in the mouth as a kid.
So we have to somehow teach and or reinforce respect for others.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have that issue because your initial instinct is, screw it, I got to get out of here fast and I can't wait in those lines. Maybe you just say that.
Right.
Maybe you respect the person behind the counter and go, it may appear to be a low level. It could be a manager for all I know. I don't know. But I'm gonna approach this and try to express my feelings.
We have to get out of here.
Become an asshole.
But I'm going to say my hope in that. This is my hope in that. Last year, the kids were sent home for homeschooling. And the parents found out what real little assholes they have, right? Because these kids were perfect, and it was the teacher's fault. And then they came home. So maybe this will turn the tide. Maybe parents will be like, wow, is that what I did? Did I raise that?
Yeah, that's true. That is true, man. When you live with the heckler, you understand the heckler a lot better.
Jeff, where can people find you, follow you? What projects are you doing right now? Are you doing a show right now? I know you have your podcast.
I am out pitching a couple of things, including a film script. And when I sell one of those, I'll come back. In the meantime, I got my podcast, Play with Pain, which is hosted by my alter ego, Chet Waterhouse, sportscaster Chet Waterhouse.
I'm a regular guest. I love Chet.
It's the best. It's a stupid 20 minutes. It is nothing like this. It never gets anywhere near this substantive. It's stupid and idiot and fun. So that's on wherever you get podcasts. It's called Play with Pain. And then I'm out on the road. I'm opening for Brian Regan. Some dates coming up in mid-November in Worcester, Mass, and Buffalo, and Cleveland, Akron, and then Chicago. So that'll be fun. Be my first time out in a while. And at Real Jeff Cesario on Twitter. That's where you can find me.
Jeff, thank you so much.
Oh man, what a blast!
It's been so much fun over the years. We have laughed a lot in front of screens, behind screens, on stages, and everything else. I'm going to be at JR's Comedy Club in Valencia this weekend. I'm going to be at Bellflower Comedy Club in Bellflower, California, which is a suburb of LA. Friday night, and next weekend I'm headed to Tampa to Side Splitters. Thank you everyone for listening. Jeff, thank you so much for dropping in.
My pleasure.
And I hope somebody heard this and said, I'm not going to be an asshole. I'm going to use my turn signal and sell my Tesla. Who's paying attention? You are. This is Alonzo Bodden. Thank you.